Hello, welcome to the weekly highlights program on Azərbaycan Television with the major developments of the week. I am your host, İlham Məmmədov. Now first, let's take a brief look at some of the top stories of this week. On September 28th, at the initiative of the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, a meeting was held between President İlham and Antonio Guterres in a video format. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan İlham Əliyev and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva met with the servicemen wounded during the Armenian military provocation launched on September 27th. On September 28th, at the initiative of the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, a meeting was held between President İlham and Antonio Guterres in a video format.
President İlham Aliyev briefed on the course of events related to Armenia's military provocation against Azerbaijan yesterday. He noted that on September 27th, Armenia fired heavy artillery at the positions and settlements of the Azerbaijani armed forces along the line of contact, as a result of which our civilians and servicemen were killed. The Azerbaijani side is carrying out successful counter-offensive operations in self-defense. The head of state stressed that this was not the first time that the Armenian side had committed such military provocations. Thus, the occupying country carried out a similar provocation on the Azerbaijani-Armenian border in July this year, and in August, an Armenian sabotage group tried to cross the line of contact. At the same time, Armenia is illegally resettling foreign nationals from other countries in the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, which is a serious violation of international law under the Geneva Convention. The head of state also noted that the Armenian Prime Minister had created armed groups of civilian volunteers consisting of tens of thousands of civilians who would be forced to take part in the military operations against Azerbaijan. During the conversation, President İlham Aliyev said that he noted Armenia's preparations for a new war in his speech at the general debates of the 75th session of the UN General Assembly. The head of state said that the Armenian leadership was deliberately violating the negotiation process. The statement of the Armenian leadership that Nagorno-Karabakh is Armenia dealt a serious blow to the talks. The statement Azerbaijan should hold talks with Nagorno-Karabakh is an attempt to change the format of the talks, which was also unacceptable, as stated by the leadership of the Minsk Group. President İlham Aliyev said that the Armenian-Azerbaijani Nagorno-Karabakh conflict must be resolved only within the framework of international law and international integrity of Azerbaijan, on the basis of relevant UN Security Council resolutions calling for the immediate, unconditional and complete withdrawal of Armenian forces from the occupied territories. During the conversation, the special session of the UN General Assembly dedicated to the fight against COVID-19 initiated by Azerbaijan was discussed, and the President thanked the UN Secretary-General for his support on this initiative. President İlham Aliyev noted that he would continue to spare no effort to combat COVID-19 in the international arena. Issues related to the prospects of cooperation between Azerbaijan and the UN were discussed at the video conference.
President of the Republic of Azerbaijan İlham Aliyev received credentials of the newly appointed Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Bilal Hayy.
Excellency Mr. President, Assalamu Alaikum. I bring to you the greetings of the President and Prime Minister of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan hold a special place for the brotherly people of Azerbaijan. As you would recall, Pakistan has always supported the brotherly nation of Azerbaijan on the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh. Our hearts stand and pant with the people of Azerbaijan. Mr. President, I was instructed by the leadership to work towards a deepening economic engagement with Azerbaijan, strengthening our defense relations and bringing the people of the two countries closer. I assure you that I will do my best towards realization of these objectives. Thank you.
Welcoming the ambassador, President İlham Aliyev said he was very glad to see him, asking the ambassador to convey his greetings to the President and Prime Minister of Pakistan. The head of state recalled his meetings with both of them. We have reaffirmed the strategic and fraternal relations between our countries. As you mentioned, we are grateful to you for your country's continued support of Azerbaijan in resolving the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, said President İlham Aliyev, saying that Azerbaijan has always supported Pakistan in all matters, including the Kashmir issue, and that this mutual support reflects the fraternal nature of cooperation between the two countries. The head of state expressed confidence that during Bilal Hay's activity in Azerbaijan, the relations between the two countries will be strengthened further. We are grateful to Pakistan for its resolute position on the issues of Azerbaijan territorial integrity. Pakistan does not recognize Armenia due to Armenia's occupation of Azerbaijani lands. This is a true demonstration of brotherhood. In all situations, Pakistan is always with us, and I am grateful for that. I would like to ask you to convey my gratitude to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of your country. As you know, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan recently made a statement in the aftermath of the Armenia's provocation against our country. This statement fully supports our cause. On the 27th of September, Armenia launched a new military provocation against Azerbaijan. This is a continuation of the aggressive policy, said President İlham Aliyev. Noting that the events of July are well known to the international community, and everyone knows that it was Armenia that fired on Azerbaijani villages and military positions in Tovuz district on the Armenian-Azerbaijani border, and as a result one civilian was killed, the other state added that the Azerbaijani army had to take retaliatory measures and responded to them adequately. Their plans to occupy new territories, as the defense minister had previously stated, failed. The Azerbaijani army once again demonstrated its strength, and the Armenian army was forced to stop the provocation and regret what it had done. Unfortunately, the aggressive policy and Azerbaijanophobia continues. Last month, on August 23rd, they sent a sabotage group, which was subsequently captured by our army. The head of that sabotage group was arrested and said in his statements that the main target was to attack civilians, commit acts of terror, and attack our servicemen, said the head of state. Recalling the events of September 27th, when they began to attack Azerbaijani villages and military positions from different directions, and Azerbaijan suffered casualties among civilians over those days, President expressed regret that number of civilian casualties is growing. This once again demonstrates the fascist nature of the Armenian criminal regime. This time we will teach them another lesson. We have already taught them a lesson, and this process will be continued. The Azerbaijani army has launched a counter-offensive. Some occupied territories have been liberated as a result of the counterattack. The Azerbaijani flag has been hoisted on these liberated territories. The successful counter-offensive operation of the Azerbaijani army continues. We are fighting on our own land. Nagorno-Karabakh is a historical part of Azerbaijan. Nagorno-Karabakh is an integral part of Azerbaijan, and the international community recognizes the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. Armenia's long-term aggression and occupation have not only led to the destruction of all of our infrastructure, but also the Khojaly genocide and a cultural genocide. They have committed a cultural genocide. They have destroyed our historical monuments, our mosques. The mosques that have not yet been destroyed are used to keep animals. They are insulting the whole Muslim world. Expressing gratitude to Pakistan once again, the President said their support was felt throughout the years of cooperation. This, as they say, is a moment of truth. We see who is who, we see who is standing by us, and we will never forget that. Mr. Ambassador, please pass on our gratitude to the President, Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, and all our brothers in Pakistan. Our friendship and brotherhood will be continued, said the head of state. Thanking President once again for his time, Ambassador Bilal Hay said Azerbaijan's position is fair and legitimate, and the resolution of this issue cannot be postponed indefinitely because it is a fair position. President İlham Aliyev delivered a speech at the meeting of the heads of state and governments on the topic Financing of 2030 Sustainable Development Goals Agenda in the era of COVID-19 and beyond. It should be noted that the head of state delivered a speech on 25th of September 2020.
Mr. Secretary General, distinguished heads of state and government, Azerbaijan attaches great importance to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. In 2016, we established the National Coordination Council for Sustainable Development, whose primary task is to define national priorities and to align different state programs and strategies with the SDGs. Having attained the Millennium Development Goals, Azerbaijan achieved a great progress in implementation of SDGs as well. Our success was reflected in the Sustainable Development Report 2020, where Azerbaijan ranks 54th among 166 countries in the Sustainable Development Goals Index. Azerbaijan has been one of the few states to submit voluntary national reviews to the United Nations twice. Azerbaijan's economy has developed rapidly. The GDP tripled in the last 17 years. Poverty in Azerbaijan went down from 49% to 5% within 17 years. The external public debt of Azerbaijan is one of the lowest in the world and constitutes only about 20% of the GDP, and Azerbaijan ranks 9th for this indicator globally. Azerbaijan has the lowest external debt among the oil exporting countries. Foreign exchange reserves of Azerbaijan exceed the external public debt by 6 times. More than 260 billion US dollars were invested in the country within 17 years. According to the statistics provided by the International Monetary Fund, currently Azerbaijan's economy accounts for 70% of the entire economy of the Southern Caucasus region based on the purchasing parity power method. Azerbaijan places a special emphasis on the equal distribution of energy revenues between current and the future generations. To this end, the State Oil Fund was established in 1999. The assets of the fund, which was 270 million US dollars at its commencement, currently exceeds the GDP of the country. Azerbaijan has achieved one of the highest income equality levels. The military aggression of Armenia against Azerbaijan has led to the occupation of almost 20% of the territory of our country. As a result of the Armenian occupation, more than 1 million Azerbaijanis became refugees and internally displaced persons. Azerbaijan has made tremendous strides to improving living and housing conditions of internally displaced persons. About 8 billion Azerbaijani manats, amounting to nearly 5 billion US dollars, has been allocated for addressing needs of this vulnerable group. Over 300,000 internally displaced persons were provided with free houses and apartments. Due to the difficulties caused by occupation of our territories by Armenia, Azerbaijan was receiving humanitarian aid from international community during the early period of its independence. Later, Azerbaijan itself became a donor country. Overall, Azerbaijan provided financial and humanitarian assistance to nearly 120 countries during the last 15 years. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on all the countries of the world. Millions of people are expected to be pushed back into extreme poverty. Pandemic has affected our economy as well. Despite the decrease in the state revenues during the pandemic period, the government has allocated fund around 3% of GDP to the protection of jobs, economic growth, and the public health. In order to counter the negative impact of pandemic, the socio-economic stimulus package, worth over 2 billion US dollars, has been released to ensure economic stability, tackle unemployment issues, and ensure macroeconomic and fiscal stability. The social relief measures cover nearly 5 million people, which is half of our population. Funding for the fight against the pandemic was provided only from domestic sources, without any external financial support. In addition, Azerbaijan has provided humanitarian and financial assistance to more than 30 countries with respect to COVID-19. In the post-pandemic period, our main priorities are to ensure the economic growth, to maintain economic and financial stability, to further develop healthy and competitive human capital, to create sustainable jobs, and to develop new areas of economic activity. Only through solidarity and joint action, humanity can fight against pandemic and overcome its negative consequences. As the chairman of the non-aligned movement, Azerbaijan requested to convene the special session of the UN General Assembly in response to coronavirus. More than 130 UN member states supported this initiative. I believe the special session will serve as a framework for addressing the pandemic's impact on all spheres and contribute to the global efforts of eliminating its consequences. Thank you.
On September 29, 60-minute program dedicated to the recent events unfolding on Azerbaijan-Armenia line of contact was broadcasted on Russia 1 channel. President of Azerbaijan İlham Əliyev and Prime Minister of Armenia Nikol Pashinyan answered the questions of presenters. The questions were first addressed to President İlham Əliyev, saying that as a result of military provocations committed by Armenia on September 27th, there were civilian casualties and Azerbaijan was forced to defend its territories. President İlham Əliyev also brought clarity to the role of Turkey in this conflict. The head of state said that Turkey played the role of a stabilizer in the region. President İlham Əliyev called Turkey's participation in the conflict as the fake news spread by Armenia and added that involvement of F-16 fighter jet of the Turkish armed forces in military operations was also not true. Today, considering the modern information technologies, it is very hard to conceal something, said the head of state, and emphasized that Turkey was not a party to the conflict and did not participate in the conflict in any form, and there was no need for that. Speaking of the provoking statements of the current Armenian government resulting in the violation of the negotiations process, President İlham Əliyev, answering the questions whether mercenaries from Syria were involved in the conflict, said that tens of thousands of military servicemen in reserve were called to active duty military out of 10 million population against 2 million Armenians, and there was no need for human resources. Therefore, we have to defend ourselves and must punish the aggressor in such a way that he dare not to look at us once more, said President İlham Əliyev. Joining live the program, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan answered the questions, always finding himself in awkward situations when speaking in front of the international public. Nikol Pashinyan stuck to his tradition this time also. Unable to answer the questions of the presenters, Armenian Prime Minister used lies which were not based on any facts. Then, political and military experts joined the discussions. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces İlham Əliyev, and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva met with the servicemen wounded during the Armenian military provocation launched on September 27th and treated at the Central Military Clinical Hospital of the Defense Ministry.
Wishing to all the wounded servicemen soonest recovery and return to the battlefront, President İlham Əliyev emphasized that our cause was the just cause and we were fighting on our own lands. The head of state wished patience to the families of martyrs who perished during the battles for motherland and added that their blood would be revenged. Our soldiers are saviors. The Armenian soldiers are invaders, said the head of state, and called on the Armenian people not to become hostage of the dirty deeds of their leadership, stating that during the 4-day battles, the Azerbaijani army liberated strategic elevations and several residential settlements by undertaking successful operation. President İlham Əliyev added that the Azerbaijani flag had already been pinned on those lands and nobody can drive us out of there. The head of state stressed that this fight is for the just cause and historical truth. International law and justice was 100% in favor of Azerbaijan. I'm sure that Azerbaijan will restore its territorial integrity. The spirits are high in the army, said the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, and noted that the spirits were also high among the public. He expressed this gratitude on behalf of Azerbaijani people to the brotherly Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for his resolute position. We will never forget countries, organizations, people who supported us these days, said the head of state, and added that Armenia didn't learn from its mistakes due to the events of recent days, and they are preparing for new provocations and fire at residential settlements. As a result, civilians are wounded and killed. Azerbaijani army doesn't take any measures against the civilian population. It targets positions of the Armenian armed forces, equipment and personnel. At the end of his speech, President İlham Əliyev once again emphasized that Azerbaijani people are heroic people because they brought up such heroic sons and daughters. The entire Azerbaijani people are proud of you. We will be victorious. Karabakh is ours. Karabakh is Azerbaijan. Mayor Itibar Jamalov added that Azerbaijani soldiers who rebuffed the enemy but were wounded are ready to return to the line of contact and are ready to defend the motherland at any time.
On October 2nd, President İlham Əliyev gave an interview to Al Jazeera TV channel. The interview was aired on Al Jazeera. In his interview, the head of state commented on the recent developments on Armenia-Azerbaijan Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and said the conflict must be solved only on the basis of Azerbaijan's territorial integrity. Armenia does not want peace, wants to keep our lands under occupation forever. They don't want to change the status quo. This is how, in his interview, President İlham Əliyev explained the reason why Armenia-Azerbaijan Nagorno-Karabakh conflict had lasted so long. The head of state said the UN Security Council adopted 4 resolutions demanding immediate, full and unconditional withdrawal of the Armenian troops from the occupied Azerbaijani territories, but those resolutions remained on paper. OSCE in Minsk group, already in activity for 28 years, was without any result. The head of state said despite very broad support from the point of view of international law norms and decisions and resolutions of the international organizations, and despite the legal framework for resolution, there was not enough practical pressure on the aggressor, and this was also one of the reasons why the conflict lasted so long. President İlham Əliyev said, making statements over the recent years, the Armenian authorities committed several provocations to disrupt the process of negotiations. What happened on September 27th was the logical continuation of that policy. What I am demanding is absolutely in line with the international law because the whole world recognizes territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, said the head of state. Asked about the possibility of returning to the process of negotiations, President İlham Əliyev said the negotiations could not be held unilaterally. We need to have a partner, but in Armenia so far we don't have a partner for negotiations, the head of state said, noting that after Pashinyan came to power, he destroyed all the elaborated principles. President İlham Əliyev said therefore full responsibility was on him and his government. The head of state said Armenia should refrain completely from provocative statements. They should make new statements that Karabakh is not Armenia, and then we will see, said President İlham Əliyev. Speaking about the co-chair's position, the head of state said the co-chairs should keep neutrality. Those who want to act in their national capacity should step down from the Minsk Group co-chairmanship, otherwise mediation would not be acceptable by Azerbaijan. As regards the ceasefire calls of the international community, President İlham Əliyev underlined that Armenia wanted to invite third parties to the conflict. We need our territories back by peaceful means, and we demonstrated for 28 years our willingness to have peaceful settlement, said President İlham Əliyev. Speaking about the liberated territories, the head of state underlined that it is our land. We regained it by force. We regained it giving our victims. We will never step back from them. We will live there. We will go back to our lands. This is our legitimate right. This is a historical task for us, and I'm sure we will succeed. To the journalist's question, do you believe in people's rights to self-determination? President of Azerbaijan said in the case of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, self-determination was not working the way how Armenians wanted to do it. Another argument, Armenian people already self-determined themselves. They have independent Armenian state. Those countries which want to give self-determination to Nagorno-Karabakh, let them give part of their land to Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh. Take them and give self-determination there. I would see what will be their reaction, said President of Azerbaijan. The head of state also said that unlike Armenia, Azerbaijan was strongly against the conflict to transform into a regional one. We are not in the position to listen to statements or stop it, and we will work, we will negotiate, we will help. We heard it many times. We don't have time to wait another 30 years, said President of Azerbaijan İlham Əliyev. The head of state also answered Armenia's claims that Ankara is militarily involved in this conflict. He said Turkey in no other way was involved in the conflict, and Armenian fake news that Turkish F-16 shot down Armenia's Su-25 and Azerbaijan and Turkey invited terrorists to the conflict zone had no proof. President of Azerbaijan said he wondered why Minsk Group co-chair countries had not commented on that. Answering the journalist's questions, could diplomacy ever work, or is the war only solution for you? President İlham Əliyev said we need to restore territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. Diplomacy can work if Armenia will comply with the international law, will start immediate withdrawal from part of the territories on timetable. The conflict must be resolved on the basis of territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, President İlham Əliyev underlined. That was all for the week. Thank you for watching us, and stay tuned not to miss the next edition of our program.